Maker's Mark or Maker's Mark 46? Which one should you buy? Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, today I'm taking a look at these two Maker's Mark products to find out how different they really are and which one is worth your cash. Now, a little backstory for you. A long time ago, when I first started getting into bourbon, Maker's Mark was my go-to. Keep in mind, in the UK at that point, we only really had regular Jack Daniels, regular Jim Beam White Label, Buffalo Trace but at the lower 40%, and this stuff. That was kind of it. There was the regular Knob Creek knocking around here and there, but in general there wasn't an awful lot of choice, at least when it came to easily available bourbon. But years have passed, stuff's become more available and accessible, and I've kind of been ignoring it, and I'm not sure why. This bottle of the regular Maker's Mark I bought a couple of months ago with the intention of doing this very video, and I've just been a bit slack on actually getting around to it. This bottle of the 46 though, I bought up in Scotland of all places nearly 3 years ago now, and it's still unopened. I don't really know why. But anyway, today that's going to change, and we'll get into both of these right away. Just before we do though, a few stats about both of them. Both share exactly the same mash bill, which is 70% corn, 16% wheat and 14% barley, which I actually think makes these the first bourbons to feature on this channel that haven't got any rye in whatsoever. I've certainly had a couple of more heavily wheated options recently, and to be honest, I wasn't that keen on them, so I'll be interested to see if this still knocks highly in my favourites or not. As always, the average price in the UK right now for these is going to be on screen as well, because I looked that up when I'm doing the editing because it changes so frequently. But there is a tiny ABV difference between the two. The regular rocking at 45% or 90 proof, and the Maker's Mark 46 ironically rocking in at 47% or 94 proof, but that is not why it's called 46. In effect, the differences between these two bottles are just that. The 46, it takes the regular Maker's Mark that's in this bottle, they mature it for a bit longer, and then before it heads out they put in some heavily toasted French oak staves to try and, well, just release a little bit more and an intense flavour into this particular product. The reason it's called 46 is because they were doing loads of experiments, and stave profile 46 or experiment 46 was indeed the winner. So just before we get into them, a quick look at the bottles. I mean, it's got that very obvious, noticeable Maker's Mark wax dip top, which is always nice, and they are actually hand dipped as well, which always makes them unique. Nice kind of awkwardly square bottle, but quite tall. It's a very elegant looking thing, this. They always look very nice, and you can tell how long it's been on my shelves by that bit of dust sat on the top there. And the 46 in with, well, the same idea, but a very different bottle shape. It's nice, big, heavy. The amount of glass sat on the bottom of that, this is a proper hefty bottle here. I assume this is a 70 centilitre bottle as well. Oh yeah, it does say it on the front there in big letters. I'm just being blind. There is some nice info on the back, which we might get into a little bit later, but yeah, very classy looking things. I do like these sat on my shelf, I must say. I was about to tell you that these wax tops are actually easier to get in than the fiddly plastic caps, but that's not actually correct. Oh, and there's no cork, it's a screw cap. That's slightly disappointing. The 46 though does have a cork, although it's one of the synthetic ones. That doesn't feel luxe really, but I'm sure it's actually probably better at keeping it fresh, but even so, it feels a bit plasticky. Right then, as always, I've managed to pour more than one than the other, and actually the one I've managed to pour more of is the 46, so let's hope it is that much better. Visually, there is a difference. Like the regular Makers, which is this one I'm swilling around now, distinctly more kind of sun-kissed yellow whiskey, but the 46 has got this kind of deeper, more orange, almost kind of burnt orange hue to it. It looks very appetizing indeed, and hold it up to the light, it becomes even more apparent. So then, aromas. That Maker's regular is very much what I remember. It's quite soft, and I don't know if it's got in my head now, but quite wheaty. Like, it's got definitely a softer grain profile. Like, I can now tell in retrospect of having tried lots of other bourbons that, yeah, it's definitely missing that rye. And there's some nice woody oak tannins coming through. Not too harsh, but like, you know, it's properly barrel aged stuff. The caramel's not too strong on this. Vanilla's definitely there, and it's got like a... It's odd. There is a spicy note to it, but it's like not rice spice, not the normal spice. It's got something spicy in the same way that like cognac spicy. It's that kind of, you know, deeper, darker spice fruit thing. That was very nice though. Very nice indeed. Right there. The 46. Instantly sweeter, deeper, richer, creme caramel vibes, like big vanilla and some caramel. Like it's really forward on that kind of dairy sweetness, like custardy, buttery. There's a few darker fruit notes again, but also like with that extra sweetness, it's coming across maybe a little bit honeyed. But yeah, that, I'll be honest, I'm very excited to try the 46. I think that's going to be a standout piece here. But anyway, let's get into the regular first of all. This one coming in 45%, 90 proof, regular Maker's Mark. Cheers. Oh, okay. In hindsight, as I said, having now tried lots and lots of different bourbon, it's not the most refined, but the finish just makes me want to go back for another sip. That is what kept bringing me back to it before. Right, I'll come to the finish in a minute because let's try and do this in order. But right on the tip of the tongue, deep berry fruits. Properly solid, rich, toasted oak profile. Like it's really... Yeah, the barrel is there. It's big, but it's not too brash. Like it's there, it's solid. You can go, that is oaky, but it's not over the top. It's not too much. And then it's proper vanilla forward, and much like the aroma, it's not really coming across in that caramel bourbon thing. It's all vanilla all the way, and it's got a load of quasi spice with it again, like the aroma did. Like I can't quite put my finger on what that is, but it's super warming, quite indulgent to be honest. It's kind of got, you know, like a winter spice mix. It might be a bit of cinnamon, bit of nutmeg, something like that in there. And then that finish all starts to dry your palate out, and you get this nice, big, kind of semi-savoury. It's nutty, it's bready, it's a bit peanut brittle in places because you've still got some of that vanilla sweetness. And yeah, that actually, now I've had a few sips, is is growing on me once again. On to the 46. The aroma still, it's opened up a bit, and it's like, it feels like some sort of French dessert. Like it's so, yeah, it feels quite refined, this one. Let's give it a go. Cheers again. Interesting. It is definitely a more mature, more refined, more, I guess, considered spirit, but I am wondering if it's losing a few varieties in flavour. I know the first sip was just a adjustment from the previous one. Now we're getting into it now, and it's super big, super rich. It does feel related, like don't get me wrong. It's all very similar. It's all very vanilla forward. A good amount of oak in there. It's got some big berry notes. This one, I think, is a bit sweeter. I think more like kind of, you know, cherries and berries rather than the slightly deeper, almost tart but still sweet kind of deeper, darker fruits that were in the regular. And it's got this, well, simply fantastic body on it, which also makes half the event. If you look, if I swirl these both around in the glass without spilling them, and you can see on the side of the glass, the 46 is just leaving, even if I swirl this one around even more, the regular, the 46 is just leaving legs all over the place, whereas the regular, not really. It does have some heat to it, the 46, just as much, if not more, than the regular, but it's so well balanced along with everything else. You get that butteriness, you get that vanilla caramel, creme caramel thing I mentioned from the aroma, but it's not as sweet as the aroma. It's a bit more, I guess, of a challenge. If it was that sweet, then it would have been, frankly, just ridiculous, but it is very, very nice indeed. The kind of hallmark of that slightly savoury and sweet, nutty thing from the finish of the regular Makers is there in the 46, but it's nowhere near as kind of savoury and nutty. It's just kind of, you get a flash of it, and then the rest of it's very much vanilla, caramel, and, well, enjoying that, frankly, ludicrously brilliant body that it's got. It's absolutely, yeah, very, very nice indeed. Now, I'll put the current pricing on the screen again now while we talk about it, and I have just had a quick look. In effect, at worst case, the 46 is kind of double the price of the regular, and I'm going to find it very hard to sit here and say that it's worth twice what the regular is. But I have noticed in a couple of instances where you can actually get them about, well, 50% more than the regular. So yeah, just kind of half again, which actually I think is about right. That is really what the difference is. Now, in terms of preference, a lot of people I think actually will just prefer the regular because it is a bit more brash, it is a bit more out there, there is a lot of flavour going on, but it is a bit lacking in refinement, whereas the 46 might be actually an easier whiskey for a beginner palate because, well, there's just not as much spiky edges, it's a bit softer, it's a bit more considered, and actually it's a fantastic just sit down and sip drink for me. That really is, yeah, really is very good indeed. So which one you should buy, I think depends on your preferences a little bit. If you like things a little bit fiery, spicy, and the idea of that nice nutty finish, then, well, actually the regular, to be honest, is still an absolute steal. But if you want something a bit more reserve, that French oak stave, and I've just realised I've said it tastes like smelled like a French dessert, tastes like a French dessert. That wasn't intentional, but maybe I got it in my head because of those staves. But yes, it is just a bit more of a sophisticated sit down and consider. The flavours in some instances are more subtle, but some of the sweetness is more apparent, so it might again suit a starter palate a bit better. But in essence, both of these are absolutely fantastic, and I can see me keeping both of them in my collection for a long time because, well, yeah, I think they both do have a place. And just before we wrap it up, I'm going to read you the back of the bottle from the 46. It says, at Maker's Mark, we created a wood finishing service to explore unique expressions of our signature Maker's Mark whiskey, originally crafted by my parents in 1953. Maker's Mark 46 starts with a fully matured Maker's Mark, and then we add 10 seared French oak staves to each barrel and place it in our limestone cellar for an extra aging process. This creates a bolder version of Maker's Mark with pronounced notes of caramel and vanilla, and has become known as Stave Profile number 46. Enjoy. There's definitely more caramel in the 46 than the regular. The vanilla felt pretty even to me, but it is what it is. And here's a little tidbit for you to notice. On Maker's Mark, they actually spell whiskey the Scottish way rather than the normal American with an E. Little bit of trivia for you there. That is really all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you'll be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.